The energy crisis has emerged as one of the most critical challenges of our time, affecting everything from global economics to personal livelihoods. In recent decades, recurring energy shortages, skyrocketing fuel prices, and an ever-increasing dependence on non-renewable resources have led to widespread instability. Many point to the scarcity of resources, geopolitical conflicts, and technological limitations as the core reasons for this crisis. However, a darker theory has begun to emerge in speculative discourse, one that suggests the energy crisis might not be a natural consequence of human consumption and environmental mismanagement, but rather a carefully orchestrated dilemma designed to serve the interests of a powerful few. This speculative perspective posits that corporations, particularly those entrenched in the energy sector, may be manipulating the crisis for extraordinary financial gain. The concept of creating scarcity to boost profits is not new in the annals of economic history. From the artificial constraints in oil production during the 1970s to the more recent fluctuations in renewable energy investments, there is a case to be made that corporate interests have a vested stake in maintaining, or even exacerbating, the sense of energy instability. But beyond mere profit, there is another, more apocalyptic dimension to this theory. What if these massive corporations, flush with record profits, are using their wealth not just to consolidate power but to prepare for a future that the general public remains largely unaware of? A future where global collapse, whether through environmental degradation, nuclear conflict, or economic failure, is seen not just as a possibility but as an inevitability. In this speculative scenario, the energy crisis becomes a cover story for the ultra-wealthy to build survival infrastructures, bunkers, self-sustaining communities, and private armies, all while the rest of the world struggles with rising fuel costs and energy shortages. The energy crisis, far from being a natural consequence of resource mismanagement, could be a manufactured social dilemma. This, in turn, would allow corporations to operate without accountability, all while channeling their vast profits into securing their survival in an anticipated global catastrophe. While this scenario may seem far-fetched at first glance, the evidence of corporate profiteering, greenwashing, and survival infrastructure investments adds fuel to the speculative fire. Could it be that the energy crisis is just the surface of a far more complex and hidden agenda?
A handful of powerful corporations dominate the global energy sector. These companies control the energy that powers our world. They have a huge impact on billions of lives. These energy giants are mostly oil and gas companies. ExxonMobil and Shell are two examples. These companies have a near monopoly on energy production. They also control how energy is distributed. The public is told that these companies are essential. They supposedly keep the world running. They argue that they are needed as energy demand grows. However, there is another side to this story. Some argue that these companies block alternatives. They restrict access to renewable energy sources. This creates artificial scarcity. The result is that prices stay high. These companies have enormous influence. They shape global markets. They impact international policies. Their actions have far-reaching consequences. They affect climate change. They impact geopolitical stability. Their dominance raises crucial questions. Is their power excessive? Does it hinder the transition to a sustainable future? The idea of manufactured scarcity is not new. The oil crises of the 1970s offer a clear example. These crises are often seen as geopolitical events. However, they also benefited oil companies. Companies used the crises to increase prices. Profits soared. This raises questions about their role in these crises. Today's energy crisis is more complex. It involves more than just oil. Renewable energy sources are also part of the equation. We have the technology for renewable energy. Solar, wind, and nuclear power are all viable options, yet the transition is slow. Why? Some argue that these same corporations are to blame. They profit from oil and gas. A rapid shift to renewables threatens their profits. They have a financial incentive to slow down progress. This raises concerns about their commitment to a sustainable future. Are they putting profits before the planet? In recent years, these companies have seen record profits. This has occurred even during energy shortages. The 2022 global energy crisis is a prime example. The war in Ukraine worsened the crisis, yet oil companies made huge profits. Fuel costs skyrocketed for consumers. Meanwhile, these companies benefited. These events raise serious questions. Are these companies operating ethically? Are they prioritizing profit over people? Transparency is crucial. The public deserves to know how these companies operate. They need to be held accountable for their actions. The current system seems unsustainable. Reliance on these corporations is risky. It creates vulnerability. It undermines efforts for a greener future. A new approach is needed. Manufactured scarcity, what is it? Ever gone to the supermarket and found your favorite cereal out of stock? Maybe there's a sale next week and they're holding back. That, my friends, is manufactured scarcity in its simplest form. It's when companies create the of scarcity to drive up demand and prices. Think about it, limited edition sneakers, Tickle Me Elmo, all carefully calculated to make you crave what you can't have. Now, imagine this on a much larger scale, like with essential resources. Not toys or sugary cereal, but things people rely on like energy, because guess what? The energy sector has a long and storied history of boom and bust cycles. And sometimes just those shortages might not be entirely accidental. The energy sector is like a roller coaster designed by a sadist. It's all exhilarating climbs and stomach-churning drops with very little time to catch your breath. We've seen it time and again. Prices soar, people panic, governments scramble, but then, just as quickly, things stabilize, prices drop, and everyone forgets how close we came to the abyss. But what if these weren't just natural market forces at play? What if someone was fiddling with the controls, deliberately creating these artificial highs and lows? Now, I'm not saying that's happening, but let's just say it wouldn't be the first time. Remember the 1970s oil crisis? Gas lines stretching for miles, people brawling over a few gallons of unleaded, good times. Officially, it was an oil embargo by OPEC nations, but some people, and I'm not naming names, conspiracy theorists, believe that oil companies played a role. The accusation is that they helped engineer the crisis to boost profits. And look, I'm not saying it's true, but I'm also not saying it. I'm simply saying that big oil made a killing during that crisis. Coincidence? You decide. Fast forward to 2022, another energy crisis grips the world. Russia's invasion of Ukraine sends shockwaves through the global energy market. Prices skyrocket, governments panic, people freeze. And who benefits? You guessed it, big oil. They're raking in record profits again. And it's not just me saying it, even the International Energy Agency, not exactly known for its radical takes, called out oil companies for cashing in on the crisis. So are we seeing a pattern here? Is this just how the market works, or is something more sinister at play? Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into a hot topic. Is big energy truly going green or just greenwashing? Renewable energy is often hailed as the answer to our growing energy demands. Cleaner, sustainable, and vital for our future. But despite the public's enthusiasm, the transition to renewables feels painfully slow. So, what's holding us back? Some say the answer lies in the reluctance of entrenched energy corporations to give up their grip on the global energy market. These companies have publicly embraced the language of environmentalism, talking up their investments in solar and wind power. But critics argue it's more about PR than real change. This is where the term greenwashing comes in. Greenwashing is when companies superficially adopt eco-friendly rhetoric and practices without making substantive changes to their core operations. Remember BP's rebranding as Beyond Petroleum in the early 2000s? They pledged investments in renewables and adopted a greener image, yet remained heavily invested in oil and gas. Renewable energy made up only a tiny fraction of their overall portfolio, and BP isn't alone. Similar patterns are seen across other energy giants. They may talk a big game about green energy, but their investments in renewables are often dwarfed by their continued reliance on fossil fuels. So, is big energy genuinely going green or just putting on a green mask? It's a question worth pondering as we push for a sustainable future. Hey everyone, today I'm diving into the hidden power play behind energy crises. And trust me, it's more than just high bills and blackouts. You see, every time there's an energy crisis, it's not just an inconvenience, it's a strategic move. Who benefits the most? Major corporations. Think about it. The more dependent we are on them for our energy needs, the more control they have over our lives. Why does this matter? Because energy isn't just about keeping the lights on. It's the backbone of modern life, and those who control energy control society. It's a power dynamic that allows these corporations to push for policies that benefit them, often at the expense of our environment and social justice. During a crisis, governments scramble to stabilize the market. They offer subsidies, tax breaks, anything to keep the energy flowing. But these quick fixes come with a price. They reinforce the dominance of fossil fuels, delaying the transition to cleaner alternatives. Imagine this. A government desperate to prevent a blackout gives a massive subsidy to a coal company. In the short term, the crisis is averted, but in the long term, it's a setback for sustainable energy. We're locked into a cycle of dependency that's hard to break. So, next time you hear about an energy crisis, remember there's more at play. It's not just about the supply and demand, it's about control, power, and the future of our planet. Thanks for watching, and if you found this eye-opening, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden forces shaping our world. Stay curious, folks. This is going to blow your mind. But what if energy crises aren't just bad luck? Let's dive in. Picture this. Every time a new energy crisis hits, whether it's due to political turmoil, a natural disaster, or a sudden policy change, big energy corporations swoop in to save the day. But here's the kicker. These crises might actually be part of a bigger plan. By keeping us in a state of constant emergency and partial recovery, these giants can justify their dominance over the energy market. Think about it. Every crisis reinforces their story. We're essential. You need us. And while we're scrambling to keep the lights on, they're making sure any shift to renewable energy happens slow and on their term. So next time you hear about an energy crisis, ask yourself, who benefits from this chaos? Well, and more importantly, what can we do to change the game? Stay curious, stay informed, because understanding the hidden agenda could be the first step to breaking free. Are the elite secretly planning to escape Earth? What if the energy crisis is their ticket out? Imagine this. The global energy crisis isn't just a crisis, Waz. It's a cleverly orchestrated scheme to generate colossal profits. And where do those profits go? Some believe they're funding the ultimate escape plan for the elite. Take Elon Musk, for example. His Mars colonization efforts aren't just about exploration. Critics argue it's a backup plan, a lifeboat for the super-rich if Earth goes belly up. With SpaceX planning crewed missions to Mars by 2029 and a self-sustaining city by 2050, the theory doesn't sound too far-fetched. Musk's vision involves using Martian resources for fuel and creating a new society. But think about it, who benefits? While the rest of us face Earth's challenges, the elite could be readying their interplanetary escape. So, is the energy crisis just a convenient profit generator? Or is it part of a bigger, more secretive agenda? Dive into the possibilities and decide for yourself. I'm sure you've heard the news. Doomsday bunkers and private islands are all the rage among billionaires. But why? Throughout history, the elite have always found ways to shield themselves from chaos. Medieval castles, check. Private islands, you bet. But today's survival strategies are on a whole new level. Imagine underground bunkers with renewable energy tech and stockpiles of gourmet food. Or space ventures aiming to make Mars the next luxury neighborhood. Talk about an upgrade. But here's the kicker. While the rich prepare their escape hatches, the rest of us might be left to fend for ourselves. Climate change, resource depletion, societal breakdown, these aren't just dystopian fantasies. They're real threats. So, will the future split into two worlds? One for the elite in their isolated enclaves or off-world colonies, and another for everyone else? What do you think? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments. Stay curious, stay informed. If you're tired of feeling let down by big institutions, you're not alone. Let's dive into why trust is on the decline. Once upon a time, we believed that corporations and governments had our best interests at heart, but today, it feels like they're more interested in their own profits and power. Take the countless scandals, cover-ups, and broken promises. It's no wonder we're skeptical. When a crisis hits like a pandemic or economic meltdown, we're left feeling abandoned. It's like they've forgotten who they're supposed to serve, us. This lack of faith isn't just a minor inconvenience, it's shaking the very foundation of our society. Without trust, cooperation on critical issues like climate change and social justice becomes a Herculean task. And with every broken promise, we inch closer to alternative systems and grassroots movements. People are building their own communities and solutions, often in direct opposition to the big guys. So, What's the answer? Maybe it's time for a new wave of transparency and accountability, because without trust, can we really move forward together?
Is there an energy crisis? In order to answer that question, crisis would have to be defined. I've never been anywhere that electricity wasn't available, but that doesn't mean electricity is available everywhere to anyone. Energy is available to those that can afford energy. The people responsible for making energy available require payment, so the companies that make energy available require shareholders. The only function of any company is to increase shareholder value. If shareholder value can increase due to an increase in the cost of energy, it becomes the duty of the company to find ways to increase the cost of energy. If creating a crisis allows companies to increase the cost of energy, the company needs to figure out how to create a crisis. It's really that simple. No energy crisis, no increase in shareholder value. So, for this example, crisis is defined as a method by which shareholder value can be made to increase. So, there is an energy crisis in that there is a method by which energy company shareholder value can be made to increase.